Okay, it's right at 12:30, so we'll go ahead and get started. Um, Welcome back to another talk today, or one of our virtual health talks. And today we're talking about sleep with Faith Marie Oakley, who you can see here on the screen. Um, so I think this is a really hot topic. I was really surprised at how many questions were submitted because we gave the option for attendees to submit questions. This is more questions. I printed them out here, so we'll go over those at the end, but I printed them out, and I think this is more questions than we've had in past health talks. And I know my team members on my team are super pumped for this talk, and I think all of them are on here right now. But they had all kinds of questions too, and even one of my coworkers, she came to me and she goes, are you going to ask my question? Is Faith Marie answering my question? And I was like, yes, she is. So hot topic. I'm super excited to learn more from you, and I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen, and then Faith Marie, I'll let you take it away. I also didn't mention Faith Marie is one of our nurse practitioners at AppInternal Medicine. So she's directly across the street from Watauga Medical Center. So right in town. And I'll go ahead and share my screen here. Okay.
Okay, so we're talking about the role of sleep and the overall in our overall well-being, because sleep's a really important component of that. And benefits, weight management, which I'm not sure if you knew, it does boost mood, it sharpens memory, and it enhances your immune system. Just in case anybody has ever felt more run down when they're not getting enough sleep, it actually is a real thing that happens.
I think we can all relate to that at some point in our lives.
Yes. And there's some stages of sleep, which most people probably have heard of these. There's non-REM and REM, and they cycle repeats about every 90 minutes. And basically, your goal is to try to get 4 to 5 cycles an hour or a night, which equals out to about 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. So that's the goal if you can.
So what exactly does rapid eye movement mean? Does that just mean you're in
a more vivid sleep state. And then I think the next slide actually tells there's some benefits to the non-REM and then benefits to the REM. So, sleep is associated with mental health. If we talk about sleep deprivation, I mean, it is a real thing. People even can act drunk when they have sleep deprivation because of how important sleep is. And then the REM sleep facilitates the brain's processing of the emotional information. So, example, if I don't get enough sleep the next day, I just feel emotionally off. And I'm like, oh, well, now it makes sense because there is science to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when I personally don't get enough sleep, I feel like I can be short, or I'm normally a very positive, like happy,
Yeah.
bubbly person, but I think when I don't have enough sleep, I feel like a weird zombie.
And with mental health, if there's any kind of mental health illness or diagnosis, sleep is a really, really big key in keeping keeping people stable. I have anxiety, so I'm like, I need my sleep, or just I feel more irritable.
Right. So boost your mood.
Yeah, sharpens memory. So this is the non-REM that actually really helps prime your brain for the next day for learning. And I was doing more research, and it was saying that basically, if you haven't slept well, you're not be able to learn as much as 40% when you were at your peak. So it really does help with those neural connections and really helping you learn and your ability to like retain that.
Wow. So that's another big reason why sleep would be important for children or people that are in school right now, or even college students.
Yes, yes. So it enhances the immune system, which it looks like a really big slide, but basically it does enhance and improve the vaccine response. So if you are going to get vaccines, I would recommend trying to get good sleep so that you get the full benefit from it. The other part, the short, is that it revs up your immune system while you sleep. And it kind of helps recovery and repair so that you can fight off infections. And then if you sleep and you get enough sleep and you have healthy sleep, that system revs down before you wake up. But what happens is if you're not getting enough sleep, that system hasn't revved down and it's staying in the revved up cycle. And so that's why we'll find people that are like, my cortisol levels are always high, my inflammation levels are always high. And it's because most of the time not getting enough sleep to actually get those systems rev back down before you wake up. So then you're increased risk diabetes, cardiovascular disease, neurological diseases, depression. It can even be linked to cancer. So sleep is a huge building block for almost all systems.
Wow, that is so interesting.
Yeah. And then there's a little bit, so I went into sleep apnea because I think that's a big issue in our community and just in the United States. And so sleep apnea can affect a whole lot of things, including weight gain and, lack of sleep, sedentary lifestyle, excessive calories, and sometimes just genetics and hormones can play a role in causing sleep apnea or making sleep apnea worse.
Hmm. Do you find that all of these things just typically kind of go hand in hand? Like, not necessarily that sleep apnea causes weight gain, but weight gain can also cause sleep apnea, like vice
It's
versa?
a catch-22. So I'm like, or the chicken and the egg, which one came first? But a lot of times they come together.
Okay, so like all of these things just kind of can come together.
So with sleep apnea, you get daytime fatigue, lack of interest in physical activity because you are tired, and then you have increased appetite actually from hormones, which we'll get into. So the sleep apnea actually causes you to be more hungry.
Which is crazy. That is so,
Yeah, I know.
and I know you get more into that here, so this is so cool.
Yes, so hormone changes. I think a lot of people now have heard about insulin resistance. It's a lot more known word. The other hormones are leptin, ghrelin, and cortisol, which I had mentioned before. And I think my next slide talks about each one individually. Insulin, so when you have sleep apnea, you increase your risk for insulin resistance. That causes excess body weight. It can cause diabetes. It promotes weight gain because the insulin is a hormone that tells us to store fat, and then you feel hungrier and this you eat more. So it's actually working against us in this case.
And would you, like, before we keep going any further, would you talk about what exactly is sleep apnea? Like, what exactly does that mean?
Okay, so sleep apnea, there's mostly two types, obstructive and then central sleep apnea. Central sleep apnea comes from your brain, and your brain is not telling you to breathe enough. Obstructive sleep apnea is weight, like neck fat or just neck circumference pushing on your airway, and actually you're not breathing effectively. So with central, a little bit of sidebar. So I screen almost everybody, or I try to, at their annual or their new patient visit. And I'm like, do you snore? And if they say yes, then I go into it further and I ask them a whole bunch of questions. And then I do a home sleep study test. And then based on the home sleep study test, if it has sleep apnea, they are automatically referred to the neurologist in town who manages sleep apnea.
Okay.
And generally with central sleep apnea, I'm like, yeah, you got to see the specialist because that's more his jam. Obstructive sleep apnea, I do like the specialist to be involved too, but that one usually, both of them are treated with usually CPAP, which is the mask. There is now a surgery for some types of sleep apnea that you can actually have so you don't have to wear the mask. But basically, it is pressure pushing to make sure you're getting enough oxygen. I actually have sleep apnea myself. I have my CPAP. I wear it. I feel much better when I wear it. So that is what sleep apnea is. The number one treatment for sleep apnea is weight loss. But if you have untreated sleep apnea, it's very hard to lose weight.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So now that we know what sleep apnea for real is, we can keep going. So sleep
Yeah,
apnea.
sorry, that was a whole tangent, but
Oh no, that was helpful because you hear the term or you hear obstructive sleep apnea and you hear all these terms, and then I just wanted to clarify like exactly what it was.
yeah.
Okay, so sleep apnea can increase the risk of insulin.
Resistance.
And
Leptin is a hormone that tells you when you feel full. So with sleep apnea, these levels are actually elevated, and they believe there is like a leptin resistance level. And so instead of telling you when you're full, your body's just kind of like turned off that completely. And basically, people with sleep apnea have 50% more of this hormone than those without sleep apnea. So your body's not telling you properly when you're full. And then the level of the leptin is actually proportional to the severity of the sleep apnea. And a lot of times I'll tell people, like, because I kind of focus on weight loss too, is when you feel full, stop, put your food away, even if in an hour you eat more. But we almost sometimes have to give our brains and our bodies 20 minutes
Yeah.
to realign, where I try to now, when the slightest I'm feeling full, I stop instead of, oh, I could probably finish this. Because, and also if you have some leptin resistance, your body's not going to tell you properly when you're feeling full.
That is so interesting. So we've got insulin and leptin, and we've got more
Yeah.
hormones that we're about to cover
I
too.
know. Yep.
It's wild.
Yep. Ghrelin is affected by sleep disturbances, so sleep apnea. It's released by your stomach. It is the hunger hormone, and it is elevated in those with sleep apnea. So you have not work effective leptin telling you when you're full, and now you have ghrelin, which is telling you you are hungrier. So your appetite is increased, and you just rarely feel full.
Which is a bad little cycle to get stuck in.
Yes. And then cortisol is released when you're under stress. And obviously, it's higher in people with sleep apnea because you're actually depriving your brain and your body from oxygen. So your body would be in the fight or flight system. And this stimulates your fat and carb metabolism. So you actually crave sweet, fatty, salty foods, and you increase abdominal fat. And a little side story. So, my son was in the ER this Sunday, and so he's fine. He had an asthma attack. He's good now. But all this week, I have craved sugar. And I was like, what is going on? Like, but I realized it's probably my cortisol level. I'm more stressed this week. And I'm like, okay, I just have to keep it in check. But it made more sense when I reviewed my slides again. I was like, oh, your cortisol level, I bet that's what's doing it.
Yeah.
So.
I think I've said this earlier in this PowerPoint, but I think we can all relate to that too. I do that too. Or you crave like comfort foods or foods that are typically high in fat or sweets or salty
Yeah.
food. So I think we've all experienced that at some point in time when we've been under significant stress.
Yes. So if you get diagnosed with sleep apnea, after starting treatment, there are beneficial changes to these hormones. So at least there is some like good news. It decreases and to decrease these levels, there's a few other things. Healthy diet, lean proteins, healthy carbs. Try to limit the processed foods, which are really hard in our diet. The high sugar, the high salt, the high fructose corn syrup. And try to get enough sleep. The goal would be 8 hours per day. Some people, and I have some patients and just friends that are like, all I need is 6 hours. And I'm like, you're lucky. But usually I say 7 to 8 hours is the goal for
Yeah.
sleep.
Yeah. I feel like my husband, he runs on very little sleep, and he always has ever since I've known him. And
Yeah.
I'm the opposite. I always tell him I need my beauty rest. I am not a happy, great person to be around if I don't have my 7 to 8 hours of sleep.
Yes. Yeah. It is normal.
Oh, this is our little last slide here. I'll come back to that now, and I'll stop sharing my screen so that we can answer some questions.
Okay.
If that works for you. It looks like we
Yeah.
don't have any questions in the chat so far, but like I said, we had some people submit some questions. So I'll go ahead and start with those. There were a handful of questions about melatonin. So I'll start with the first one.
Okay.
This one, it made me chuckle a little bit. It says, how much is too much melatonin to give my kid and to my husband?
Okay. So I will start off by saying I don't do kids. I am not educated in kids. I do have an almost 5-year-old and an almost 2-year-old, and almost 5-year-old was struggling with sleep, and so I started researching melatonin. And basically, I would recommend talk to your pediatrician. Our pediatrician, when I went to him, said, look, I'm once a month giving my son 0.5 milligrams of melatonin when we've just had a really bad sleep cycle for a few days. Is that safe? And he was like, yes, at that level. I don't think daily melatonin in my research is actually really good for children. So I would, before you start that, talk to pediatrician.
Okay.
On adults, up to 10 milligrams is safe. And
Okay.
so usually I tell people start with 1 milligram and then you can each week kind of go up. I think they sell it in like 1, 2, 5, and 10 milligrams. So 10 milligrams is the max dose that I recommend. And usually it's about an hour before you want to go to sleep.
Okay. And can you get melatonin? That's not, it's not a prescription. You can get melatonin at,
Over the counter. Yeah.
okay,
So
awesome.
on that, sorry. So herbs and supplements are not FDA regulated. So personally, I like Nature Made brand, and I don't get kickbacks, just in case. But Nature Made brand has this circle on the front that says USP verified. So what is in it is truly in it. So that is my personal brand that I use for myself.
Okay. That's a good tip to know.
Yeah.
Since we're still talking about melatonin, here's another question about melatonin. Can you take melatonin with Xanax?
So let me, on the side of that, benzos, Xanax, there is some studies now about potentially long-term it causing dementia. So
Mm.
a lot of people were taking Xanax or were being prescribed Xanax for sleep in the past, and we're kind of backing away from that. I don't prescribe it for sleep because of that reason. Um, so in that situation, I say, hey, let's try some safer meds than benzos. You can take it with Xanax, but I would go slow, the 1 milligram and see how you do, because Xanax in itself could cause increased risk for falls, dizziness, those kind of things.
Right. Okay. Okay. Um, Here's another question too about similar to melatonin.
Okay.
This person said, is magnesium glycinate a better sleep supplement than melatonin?
Sure if it's a better, but it is a different option.
Okay.
Magnesium you can take for anxiety, for sleep, and for constipation. So if I have a patient who has a few of those things, I may say, hey, let's try some magnesium at night. My recommendation is 400 milligrams. At that level, you really don't need blood testing to make sure you're taking, like, you're not going to take a toxic amount. I have found if you take more than 400 milligrams, you may start getting some diarrhea. So
Oh, lovely.
that's why I say 400 milligrams, and then I wouldn't do any more.
Okay. Um, this person also like continued on with their question, but they said, should you take melatonin consistently, or will this affect your body's natural ability to make melatonin? And I have heard that before. I have heard that.
I am not sure. So from my research, melatonin does not have dependence. It doesn't, you could take it long term every day of your life based on what I've researched. Um, the body is a weird thing, and we do get tolerant to medicines. I mean, it happens, we see that. So it could be one of those things that if you don't have an issue with sleep every night, maybe not take the melatonin every night, just so that if you've had a history where you've gotten tolerant to medicines, that may just be your body and you may just be programmed that way.
Right.
But you know, if you have to take melatonin every night to fall asleep, I think that's okay too.
Okay. Let's see. I'll go down my other list. I think those were all the ones for melatonin.
Okay.
Ready? This question says, can you get too much sleep?
Um, in some instances, yes, but a lot of times too much sleep is linked to possibly some kind of disorder, like depression. Can A symptom could be too much sleep or too little sleep. Sleep apnea, I'm sleeping a ton, but I'm not getting restful sleep.
Mhm.
So if somebody comes to me and they say, I want to sleep 15 hours a day, I say, what's going on? Because usually there is something else that's contributing to that.
Okay.
Now, in my family, my sister, she needs 10 hours every night. So
Mhm.
that's normal, but to somebody that would be way too excessive. I think if you're needing 10 to 12 hours, we need to kind of look and make sure there's nothing borderline going on. Now, the other thing is if you have like, you've not slept good all week and you want to sleep in on Saturday and catch up kind of on your sleep, that's fine. But
Okay.
I would be concerned if somebody said, I'm sleeping 12 hours every night, every day of the week. I'd say we need to look into why this is going on.
Okay. And kind of on this same question here, I've heard things before saying that if you try to catch up on your sleep, like you were just saying, like on Saturday, if you try to catch up, that gets you off your sleep cycle or your sleep schedule. Is that true?
So there's sometimes this debate on is there sleep debt and can you catch up on it?
Hmm.
Ideally, you would get the same amount of sleep every night. It would be 8 hours. You would go to bed to sleep and wake up at the same time every day, 7 days a week. Um, that would be typical perfect world. You know, if you stayed out late Friday night and you wanted to oversleep on Saturday, I think that's okay. And I think that can kind of make up for it. I would more encourage to try to get a regular 7 hours every night instead of doing a 5 hours than a 9 hours.
Right.
Just because, you know, would that affect it? Yeah, if you slept till 11 a.m. and then you try to go to bed at 9 p.m., you might not be sleepy yet. So then you stay up and then you're just continuing this cycle.
Right.
If that
That
makes
makes
sense.
sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, this one made me smile too.
Okay.
How should I get enough sleep when my dog, my child, or my partner wakes me up multiple times per night? That's
You
hard. I
know,
mean, as a like, if you're a mom, that's really hard. I'm a dog mom. I can relate
yeah.
to that. They wake you up in the night sometimes, or your husband. Even just last night, my husband woke me up because he was snoring, but then it disrupts your sleep. So that's a good
Yes.
question. If you have any tips.
I can't say I have any tips, but I feel your pain. Um, I have two kids and one's got a lot going on. So he wakes me up on a regular basis. Our dogs are banished to the living room den area because I'm like, I'm not letting you wake me up.
Mhm.
So that just depends. For me, dogs, I'd be like, sorry, you gotta go. But I have kids and I let them wake me up. I've heard a lot of celebrities now are doing this like sleep divorce where they sleep in other bedrooms. And I'm like, that's great if you got a big enough house. Like, that sounds wonderful. Um, but reality, that doesn't happen.
Mhm.
My goal is 4 hours of sleep without being woken up
Mm,
is my goal. Because
yeah.
then I'm like, okay, I've made it through a few REM cycles. And at least then if I get woken up, I can hopefully maybe get another 4 hours. So I
Yeah.
don't really have any, yeah.
Any
When
tips
I
for
figure
that?
that one out, I'll let y'all know.
Yeah. If anyone listening, if anyone knows the answer, just put it in the chat. Let us know what you do.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Another question here that was submitted was, will general vitamins like a multivitamin or even a fish oil supplement, can that affect your sleep quality if taken before bed?
So I don't think a multivitamin will have any issue with fish oil. In some people, and not a lot, it can give them acid reflux and sometimes burpy fish burps. So if you are, yeah, the
Lovely.
trick is to put it in the freezer and take it frozen or krill oil. Krill oil does not have the burpy effects. So
Okay.
if you're taking krill oil, I mean, if you're taking fish oil at night and you are waking up with some acid reflux or burpy, fishy burps, I would say take it in the morning or
Okay.
try krill oil.
Okay. But you don't think it would really affect like your quality of
I
sleep?
mean, I take a magnesium, vitamin D, and a calcium every night, and it has not affected my sleep personally.
Okay. Okay, next question here is, does room temperature play a role in sleep quality?
So there is some studies showing that you sleep better and your REM cycle, I believe it was your REM cycle, is better in cooler temperatures.
Okay. Okay.
So
That makes sense because I've noticed personally for myself, if I get hot in the night, it's miserable. You can't get comfortable.
yeah.
it's you kick up all the covers, and I like
I
to.
mean, I wouldn't recommend like frozen icicle popsicle,
Oh,
but um, the this is completely unrelated. I'm part of Arnold Schwarzenegger's daily health email, and he
yeah.
actually sent out recently about room temperature and colder temperatures actually help you in your sleep cycle. So I was like, okay, well, there we go.
That can make sense. So I guess it's probably different for everybody. They make those beds now where you can change the temperature for each side of the
I
bed.
don't have one, but I want one.
Oh, I don't have one either, but I can see how that could be beneficial if you or your spouse or your partner have different temperatures that you sleep better, um, if it's warmer or hotter or colder.
Yep.
Okay, this is the last question I have on my list, but if anyone wants to drop any questions in the chat, you're more than welcome to do so, or you can send it to me through the chat on here. But this last question is, will falling asleep with the TV on negatively impact sleep quality? And I think kind of for me personally to add to that question, not just TV, but playing on your phone, can that impact your
Yes.
sleep?
Yes, blue screens. So
Yeah.
you really should turn off the blue screen for an hour before sleep, if possibly, or if possible. Yes, it actually affects. And if you give me 1 second, I let me look up something just real quick because
Yeah.
I was talking about this with somebody.
Yeah.
It suppresses melatonin and it actually makes it harder for your brain to rest. I wanted to make sure I said the right facts.
Yeah.
So if ideally the bedroom is for sex and sleep, and we shouldn't have a TV in there.
Yeah.
And then ideally we really shouldn't look at our phones like an hour before we go to sleep. I know that's super, super hard.
Sadly, it is. It is
Probably,
hard.
I mean, I do it myself, so
Yeah.
it's probably yeah, like reading a book would be better as a way to wind down than with the blue light. There are blue light glasses. I don't really know if they help that much. You could try them. If they do, let me know. But it, yes, it messes with your sleep. You will get more restful sleep if you don't watch TV or look at your phone an hour before you go to sleep. And I mean, it is messing with your melatonin levels. So then you could have to take your supplement.
Right. I know, and I think sometimes things that you see on TV or even social media can like get you worked up. I know my husband and I have been watching the Olympics recently, and I don't know why, but I get so like when you're watching things and you're cheering, but you're supposed to be going to bed, you're getting all,
Yeah, the fight or flight's coming on. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Well, we're running short on time. We only have 3 minutes, but someone did just chime in on the chat and said, "What about reading on your iPad before bed?"
so if I believe there are like blue filter screens you can put on your iPad to try to filter that out. I think that would be a little more legit than blue light glasses. But that's probably what I would do in that. And I do think they have like night and day filter for your iPad. So I would try to get rid of as much blue light as you can if you are reading on your iPad.
Okay. That's a good tip. I do here in my desk, I do have some of the little blue light glasses.
Do they help you?
Truthfully, I don't know. And probably I should use them at night rather than like during the day. But I did get these at Target and they weren't very
Okay.
expensive at all.
There you
So
go.
if anyone does want to try them, you can find them. I think they're at Walmart and stuff too. But I do have those here, but I probably should take them and put them on my nightstand rather than have them here at my desk.
Yeah, I mean, at least you could try it for before you go to bed. If you're watching TV, put them on. I think anything could help.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, we got some more questions here. What about prescription glasses with blue light filter in them? Would they be better?
They could be. I don't know. So I get my glasses on iBuyDirect and they offer that blue light. And I'm like, is this a scam? Is this not a scam? I go to the eye doctor next month and I really need to ask him, like, is there anything legit with this?
Yeah.
And if
I
there
know my
is, then
mom.
I will add it to my glasses, but I can't say for sure yet.
Yeah. I know my mom wears glasses and I know hers have that little filter on them. But I don't know. She's never really said if it's been helpful to
Yeah,
get to sleep or not. I don't know.
that's what I need to remember. I need to make myself a note that I'll ask my ophthalmologist.
Yes. And then we can have you back on another health talk
There
and you
we
can
go.
share what you've learned. Um, we only have 1 minute left, so I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. If anyone is interested in making an appointment with Faith Marie, again, she's at AppInternal Medicine, which is right across the street from Watauga Medical Center. You can scan this QR code, which will take you to the AppInternal Medicine webpage, and you can schedule an appointment through there. And this is also the phone number. You can give this phone number a call. And if you have any issues with sleep, go see Faith Marie.
Yes.
She's got it going on. She knows her stuff. And thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed that. And I see people are chiming in on the chat right now and people are saying, thank you. This was great info. So I really appreciate you taking the
Thank
time
you.
out of your day to
Yeah.
sit down with us.
All right. Have a good day.
Thank you. I'll talk to you
Bye.
later. Bye. Thank you, everyone. I'll leave this up for just a little bit so people can scan this QR code. Thank you all for being here. Okay, everyone, it's 1:01. I'm going to go ahead and end this meeting. Thank you for being here today, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.